20% off, by the way, as it relates to now getting the definitive information on what this campaign is and will be all about and what's at stake in all of this. Byron York is the chief political correspondent for the Washington Examiner. He's a great columnist, great author, Fox News contributor, provides names, countless on-the-record, behind-the-scenes accounts for the true motives of Russiagate, impeachment, the witch hunt, built on dozens of hours of interview in his brand new book. It's called Obsession: Inside the Washington Establishment's Never-Ending War on Trump. And this is a must-read book because, we got an election coming up in 49 days, and, conversations exposing Mueller's suspected cognitive decline. Everybody knew about it. I don't know what GPS is. It's not a trick question. I have no idea what using GPS is. I didn't know I had a Clinton attorney working for me. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he obviously, when he did testify, he wasn't not in the loop, basically knew nothing. It was an embarrassment. Bill Barr has commented how there could be additional questions in the Durham investigation, and he doesn't think the Durham interim report will affect anything regarding the election. And here's what he said.
Let me ask you finally about the Durham report. Is John Durham nearing the end of his investigation?
Yeah, I'm not going to characterize exactly where he is. Just leave it at that.
Okay. Would you say it's unlikely that there'll be further criminal charges?
No, I wouldn't say that at all.
So there could be?
Yeah, there could be.
Will we hear anything about the Durham report before the election?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that either.
Well, could there, for example, be an interim report?
Yeah, I'm not going to get into what there might be.
Well, how about these questions this way? If there is an interim report before the election, won't some people think that that's an attempt to influence the election? Or would that be a fair accusation if there were an interim report?
Well, this is sort of hypo.
Why not?
Okay, but I'll just say, nowadays there are people who will say anything. Almost banking the fact as to what they're going to say, and I don't let that bother me. I'm going to do what I think is right and in the public interest.
You wouldn't be concerned if there were an interim report?
Depends on what the report said, and as I've already said, I'm conscious of the election, and I don't think any of the things that are being worked on are going to have an adverse effect on that. And I also think there's strong public interest involved as well.
What would be the utility, though, in an interim report? Why not wait till it's done?
Well, I would say there is going to be one, and that's a hard question to answer in the abstract.
The book is called Obsession: Inside the Washington Establishment's Never-Ending War on Donald Trump. Byron York is with us, investigative reporter. A lot of bombshells in this book. We have to see this also through the prism of, now Mueller's team, 27 phones were wiped clean, and they all seem to make the same mistake. And Andrew Weissman admits making it on one phone, and then he makes up an excuse for another phone. 27 of them because they put in the wrong passwords over and over again. That sounds a little suspicious, Byron York.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me. Look, it's very fishy. It's very difficult to erase all the contents of your cell phone by entering the wrong password. No manufacturer would make it easy to do that. People have their contacts, they have their photos, they have all sorts of things on their cell phone. It's really hard to do it. And, you brought up this, speaking of Andrew Weissman, you brought up this question of Robert Mueller's cognitive decline. And we all saw on July 24th, 2019, when he testified before Congress, it was supposed to be the big Watergate show for Democrats Mueller was going to stand up and deliver this indictment of President Trump, and then the country would just decide that they wanted to remove President Trump from office. That was the big hope, and it was a disaster. Mueller was clearly confused at times. He had difficulty answering some basic questions, couldn't form complex sentences, and people were genuinely shocked at that. But the Trump team was not shocked at that, because more than a year earlier, April 2018, Rudy Giuliani has just joined the Trump defense. There's a get-acquainted meeting. Mueller is there. The conversation turns, and you will remember this very well. There's a Justice Department policy that says a sitting president cannot be indicted. That was a huge part of the whole Mueller-Trump case. The conversation turns to that. whatever, and his staff was covering for him. They're saying, oh, well, we know all about it, we'll get back to you later, we'll talk later. But afterwards, the Trump team said, wow, what was that? We don't really know what's going on. He didn't seem familiar with the most basic aspects of the case.
He didn't know what Fusion GPS is. He had no idea that Jeannie Ray was once Clinton's attorney. I mean, it was shocking to hear this.
Big concern. Just because, in addition to just being concerned about a man having difficulty dealing with things, the reason this was a big concern was, remember when he hired, at the beginning, he hired all of these very partisan Democrats to work on his investigation, including Andrew Weissman, who actually went to Hillary Clinton's election night event in New York City, which was supposed to be the big celebration. Didn't work out.
But he also has a history of prosecutorial abuse, as Sidney Powell, outlined in her.
All of these partisan Democrats, and Donald Trump complained about this. He said, wait a minute, you're investigating me and you've hired partisan Democrats. And all of Mueller's defenders said, Bob Mueller is straight down the middle. He will keep these prosecutors in line. But when Trump's team could see behind the scenes that Mueller was perhaps not up to running the office, they then began to wonder who really is running this office. And I'll tell you, they never really found out.
So I think one of the bigger blockbusters in the book is that Mueller's team knew very early in the investigation there was zero evidence of Russian collusion. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. Now, we know that James Comey has signed the first FISA application, and the bulk of that information we now confirmed, it's not an issue anymore, was the dirty dossier. Sally Yates said it, and McCabe had said it, and everyone else pretty much has said it, that without the dossier they wouldn't have gotten the FISA application approved. So they relied on a bought and paid for Russian misinformation document